Good evening, everybody in the room. We are going to begin with the film now.
फैशन के नाम पर बस अब नंगा ही घूमना बाकी रह गया है, वो भी कर लो। हेल्प चाहिए तो मेरा नंबर दूं?
अरे तुझे दिखाना है तो पूरा दिखाना। ये टीजर क्या देख के जा रही है?
शॉट लगाएंगे, ज्यादा बोलेगी तो तेरी पिक्चर एडिट करके वायरल कर दूंगा।
घर पे आने का कितना लेगी?
ए चल चुप रंडी, बड़ी गंदी सी है, घोड़े जैसा मुंह है उसका, कुछ भी नहीं है आगे तुम्हारे।
फेक साली, धरती पर बोझ हो, तुम जैसे लोग मर क्यों नहीं जाते? I want sisters of such comedians to be raped so that they go in depression and stop cracking sick jokes.
पॉपुलर होना है ना तेरे को, मैं करता हूँ तुझे पॉपुलर।
छोटे कपड़े, ये भी
That feminist you have got on sounds nice.
कोई क्लास ही नहीं है।
I wonder what color sneakers she has
What?
got.
She has no headlights, no bumper, huh?
सर्विस अवेलेबल।
What's your rate?
इसको इंडिया में बैन ही कर दो।
ऐसे यार नाइट सूट
पूरे
में आ
इंडियन
गई।
कल्चर की वाट लगा दी।
पूरे मुंह पे बस रोटी दिख रही है।
Learn to dress like a woman.
क्यों खुला हुआ है? और फैबुलस का है। टॉक्स को लंगी है।
सब कपड़े बोल दो ना।
Sometimes it's fun.
जैसे
Go
कि
wild
इंडिया में
and
बैन ही
very
कर
जिंदा
दे।
है।
That
पूरे इंडियन
feminist you
कल्चर
have
की
got
वाट
on
लगा दी।
sounds
नॉट
nice.
अट्रैक्टिव इनफ फॉर
I wonder what color sneakers she has
क्यों
got.
खुला हुआ है?
मैं तेरा जीना
रिपोर्ट करो।
Good evening. Welcome. When I was in my teens, I lived in a very small town and studied in a co-ed school. I was a loner, overachiever, a very gregarious performer, and a silent retreater otherwise. Very understandable today for me now that I'm almost 60, to look back and understand who I was and what I did because of my experience of child sexual abuse since I was 6. I had few friends, though many knew me and of me, especially boys knew of me. And that is what was important, because I remember cycling into school one day and finding the walls outside the school covered with sexually violent slogans about me. I was aghast. I turned white, I felt faint, and a wave of shame washed over me, as if I was to blame. And then I tried to walk through the dense maze of my school friends glaring at me, pinning me down with their pointed fingers and their incessant giggling. I don't think I ever recovered from the impact of that experience. I buried it deep inside me and I went into denial. I whitewashed the experience, just like the school authority whitewashed the walls. And I've never spoken about it till today. But today, when we look at what is happening online by strangers with their uninvited, unsolicited attention, there is no way to whitewash it, right? It is there to stay in the lives of the person being targeted, while the sloganeers walk around with anonymous impunity. After a lifetime of working on how to open up these typical conversations, how to throw light into the dark and dank spaces and clean out anything that is preventing any of us from living a right of a fearless life as a citizen of this country, I'm finally learning to be Bekhof and own my space as well as hold the space for another. Today, in this panel discussion on how to be Bekhof, I'm going to invite my panelists on ways and strategies they have used in their lives and work to be Bekhof, to speak up, speak about, and speak against cyber harassment and trolling that is invisibly but surely silencing many of us. With great pleasure, I invite the panelists for today with a brief introduction about them. Rakhi Ghoshal, who works in the space of gender and system strengthening with a focus on gender-based violence and on education. You've been working with Care India for a few years now and are trained in literature, gender studies, and bioethics. You're a working editor of the Indian Journal of Medical Ethics, and based out of Kolkata, you're a single parent to a delightful 7-year-old. Welcome. Taranjeet Kaur, an Indian actress and poet, known for her Oscar-winning German film Raju. You've worked in many award-winning films like Aankho Dekhi and Mouth of Hell, a BAFTA-nominated film. You studied clinical psychology and trained in theatre with Neelam Mansingh in Chandigarh. Your first poem, I'm Not a Virgin, on YouTube got more than almost 5 million views and a huge response. Your other poems like Girls Don't Make a Noise and Happily Ever After address issues like sexual and emotional abuse. Your latest poems, Being Me and Sex Education, has over 15 million views on Instagram. You're known for your writings on women issues. Welcome, Taran. Kanak Gupta, you're an educator, environmentalist, and a theater director. You're an alumni from the prestigious Purdue University, USA, and St. Xavier's College in Calcutta. You've lived and worked in India, Germany, and the UK, and you're the group director of Jaipuria Schools, running 47 K-12 schools with 30,000 students and 2,200 educationists associated with the group Pan India. You've been bestowed by British Council with the Young Create Entrepreneur Award, 40 under 40 educators in the country, and Indian Education Achiever as well. You're the co-founder of VLOG Trust and My Right to Breathe, and also founder of one of India's most prolific English theatre group, Theatrician. Welcome. Sumiran Kabir Sharma. Every once in a while, along comes an experience that has the power to permeate set barriers and dissolve all stereotypes. Sumiran Kabir Sharma's label Anam is one that breaks away from rigid barriers, prescribed norms, and is in every aspect a body that has a soul of its own. Sumiran, a graduate from the Pearl Academy in New Delhi, you claim your forte to be in the ability to work with concepts and transform them into tactile pieces. To the design process, you envision your creations to play the role of healers, providing the wearer with freedom, comfort, and an intangible yet very aware emotional empowerment. As an absolute creativity enthusiast, Sumiran, you love the idea of creating magic through collaborations in diverse disciplines, from accessories to furniture to performance arts and installations. The gift of finding beauty in the bizarre and absolute fidelity to your own person sums up you, the original artist. Welcome. Artika Ashthir. Artika Ashthir, you are with Regional Union Building Coordinator, International Transport Workers Federation, and you've been working with the trade union movement since the last 10 years and focused on research, organizing contractual workers, and campaigning for fundamental human rights at workplace. You started your career with the International Union for Food Workers, worked on organizing contractual workers in multinational companies like Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, Nestle, Sodexo, and hotel chains in India. And you're currently working with the International Transport Workers Federation, focusing on organizing airport workers in Southeast Asia. Prior to this, you worked on organizing warehouse workers in India and Sri Lanka and have led youth projects in Asia Pacific for 3 years. Welcome, Artika. Pavleen Gujral. Pavleen Gujral, You were born and raised in Delhi, and you're a renowned actress, an MC par excellence, a social media influencer, and internationally acclaimed artist. You've always been interested in becoming an actress and wanted to join the National School of Drama like me to get a degree in acting and polish your craft, but you also wanted to focus on studies. So you went on to get your graduation in computer science, followed by a degree in law. During your college, you got an offer for an ad commercial by a friend. You accepted the offer, and there was no looking back. You've done many TV commercials, print shoots, ramp walks for famous designers over years. You've hosted various TV shows and stage events. You forayed into acting with equal ease and have received numerous awards and accolades for your performance as an actor. Be it Pamela from Angry Indian Goddesses to Shonali from the recently blockbuster film Gehraiyan. हमारी पवलीन के लिए जितना कहें कम है. Welcome. Aisha Hussain is a gender and sexuality campaigns manager at jhatka.org. You have previously been a multimedia reporter at SBOX, covered issues at the intersection of gender policy and social justice. You take particular interest in investigating the interplay between social identity and the state's treatment of women belonging to Dalit, Muslim, Adivasi, and other marginalized communities. As a storyteller, you believe in the power of storytelling to inspire social change. You have covered issues around gender and sexuality, displaced communities from conflict zones, and protest cultures. Your professional trajectory involves working across the fields of public relations, integrated communications, and journalism. And then we have Priya Krishnan, partner at Three People Productions, who's a poet, a painter, and a writer. You are an English literature and business major. You have worked as a garment and fabric sourcing executive in India and as a manager in the e-commerce industry before turning to art and painting in France. Your interests include films, travel, painting, languages, history and culture, textiles and crafts with focus on women-led organizations. Welcome this fantastic, beautiful, brilliant panel that I have here with me. So the overarching question for the panel today is, how can we, with the power vested in us because of our positioning, act as allies and create a change at an individual or relational level or influence policies and practices to bring about a structural change to prevent or stop this kind of harassment that we're talking about, the cyber harassment that we're talking about. But first, I want to begin with your thoughts and responses to the film. And the house is open. You may, any one of you may begin.
First of all, hats off to the makers of the film because it was so short, but it encapsulates the experience of any individual who is being trolled online. You see how the kind of harassment that women are subjected to and any members belonging to gender minorities are subjected to are so layered. There's, there are comments on someone's profession, there are comments on how they dress, there are comments on everything that you're doing online or offline. So I think it encapsulates the whole experience really well. So, initially it starts off with the woman feeling a bit cowed down, scared, and that is the kind of impact that it has on you, because you feel so alone, you feel so alienated, you don't know how to respond, you want to, but you fear that if you respond, what is it that's going to come next? Is it going to be worse? But then it also the film itself brings back the point where, anybody who's going through such an experience has the power to reclaim and can take action. So I love that the film, sort of drives the point across. So it's wonderful the way it's been made. And on the film, that's what I wanted to say. And I think I'd love to hear what the other people are thinking.
Thanks so much, Aisha. Yes, Taran, go for it.
Yeah, thanks, Smita, for showing the film again. And I must congratulate that it's a very strong and it has a powerful impact. And As a spoken word artist, I think it's really relatable. I have been trolled right from when I released my first poem called I'm Not a Virgin, because rather than, my question was, why is a woman supposed to be virgin, and why there's only a way to prove that if a woman is a virgin or not, and there's no way to prove a man's virginity. So rather than carrying home that message, I was trolled about my sex life, about being a slut and all kind of things. Honestly, in my few years of career as a spoken word artist, these things never impacted me. The only time it impacted me was when I spoke about sex education. And here I'm talking about, as parents, taking up the responsibility of educating the children about sex. And I was told very badly about, about, I mean, all kind of things about my son. I think that really disturbed me a lot, because as a mother, you can understand, you're so overprotective about your children and you want to protect them. And I've always respected their privacy, but he's also a public figure, so there was no way to protect him and all kind of things. So yeah, I mean, it's really sad in the times we live, where our private lives, no matter how much we try, are exposed to the public, and there's no way you can stop this trolling. So somewhere you just have to, I mean, after this piece reached some 10-15 million views, we had to literally stop the comments, because they were becoming worse every day. So it is really tough sometimes. And then there are days you just feel that you have to like really feel nothing and not even read any comment. Or, I mean, what you were showing in the film, it's almost like, oh, I open my Instagram and in this others requests, you have all these kind of messages which you decide not to even open. So yeah, it's really relatable what you've shown in the film.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you so much for sharing. And I know it can be hard at times to just go back that road again, but thank you so much for that courage. Thank you. Kanak?
Smitaji, the film is absolutely very well made and very realistic. I really appreciate that. I say it very realistic because, we see this kind of comments at our schools on a regular basis through the counselors, especially the young boys and girls. They talk about it as to whether they want to go online. They are perpetually trolled, and the parents always have an objection. Do not go online. Don't go on social media, because that's the protective way we all are, right? Like, we want to protect our children, but children also want to express themselves. And it's sometimes a double-edged sword. If you them well enough and you don't tell them how to protect, how to complain, how to raise a voice, it's a big, big problem. Girls typically come back to us with this kind of statement, what you showed in the film, as to how they are trolled for, be it their sexuality, be it their weight, be it the way they look, be it the way they talk. And it sends them into depression at times. It's not, it's like real life bullying. It's not something that we should take very lightly. And I think somewhere it boils down to, I remember a conversation you and I had some time back, which was that, patriarchy is the root cause of all problems in our society. And probably you start thinking about it as, if that is what you need to address first before doing anything else. But congratulations on the film. I think it was very hard hitting, and I look forward to hearing others also sharing their views.
Thank you, Kanak. Thank you so much. And that's right. And if we go the route of protection, instead of equipping our youth, equipping the people who are being targeted with what is the action that they can take, and actually educating the ones who are taking these actions and how impactful it is, how harmful it is, how abusive it is, I don't think we'll move very far ahead in that. I have two hands.
Baby with the bathwater, probably. Like, there's a good side of social media. You've got to make the best of it as well. You can't throw the baby with the bathwater by saying that everything is bad.
I'll come back to that because that's exactly where we're going to go after this round. I have two hands. I'll invite Pavleen and then I'll go to Rakhi after that.
Thank you, Smita ji. First of all, I have to congratulate you on the film. It's very short, but it's so effective that it just gives a viewpoint. In a nutshell, it just tells you what mostly women are going through in India, mostly, and I think mostly the LGBTQI community is going through. Men not so much, because we are still at that turn where men and women are still not equal, I think, at any level of society. But speaking from personal experience, so I got trolled primarily when I did something off camera in my acting career. So I played a lesbian, and there was a lesbian kissing scene, and that got trolled really terribly. I mean, people only remember that one part of the whole series, and people were sending me videos and saying like, oh, you know, whatever rubbish they keep on saying. They don't really see the whole character or the whole why you're doing what you're doing. It's only about, okay, what are you doing? And then, of course, I did another video with iDiva. Then it spoke about women's freedom for sex, and about how women also want it. So that, of course, but I have to tell you, there was such a great difference in the way people reacted to both the videos, because the iDiva video was supposed to be like funny. And it was how, women have these needs as well, but it was portrayed in a very funny way. We were not trying to be preachy. That was accepted very well by the audience than an actual actor playing a lesbian in a series and doing a certain scene. I felt like in the latter, I was badly trolled online, especially. But in the former, it was really strange how people were in on the joke, and they said that, yeah, women also want this, and it's equal opportunity in every which way. So I feel like it's also I guess it's how it's being portrayed, but how you have done it in this film is the reality. This is what it is. And you can't really turn a blind eye to it, no matter how strong you are and how protected you are. You can't, because it gets to you, and then you're left hanging of what to do about it. Either you walk forward, which is of course not easy. But yeah, I feel like that's the way, that if they have a solution that we can report it, there is that avenue, then it makes things easier.
Thanks, Pavli. Yes, that's what we all need to know. And then we also need to know how to do that. So thank you. Yes. And thanks for sharing. Rakhi?
Yeah. So I will also start with my reflections on the film. Very short, very powerful. The color, the different shades of black sort of hits us with the force that it is expected to. And yet there is this light. It's not very, very focused. It's not out there in your face, but there's a sense of light at the same time within all of those shades of black. So visually also, it was extremely powerful for me. I was just wondering that we did not hear all the voices that were being sort of, thrown at the young woman out there trying to make herself heard. She couldn't speak till the last point in the film. There was no female voice in all the trolls that came. So I was just wondering if that sort of is a deliberate thing from the makers of the video. If it is, I would really like to know. Because personally, I'm sure we all would on the same plane on the point that it's not really about men or women, that only women are getting trolled and the trolls are coming from male voices only. So there are female, very fundamental female voices, fundamentalist female voices out there as well. So why was there no female voice? This is a question I have to the makers. I feel a big caveat out here, being on the panel, and I have to say that I'm not on social media. I used to be on Facebook. I think my account is still somewhere out there, but I haven't been active on Facebook for quite a few years now, and I'm not on any of the other social media platforms. That was sort of a personal decision I took, because I realized I was getting pretty much addicted, and I would actually be, going through all the happy stories of old friends and ex-colleagues, and then feeling very miserable, and all of the syndromes I started developing. I felt my life was terrible, and these people are like, traveling, wearing dresses, going to parties. So it was taking a toll on my work and mental health. So I just stopped. It took quite a while to stop, but I stopped, and I have not been there since. So I have no personal experience of being trolled online in that sense, like Insta and Twitter and other spaces where you are trolled. But I do have experience of being bullied in real life. I think all of us we do. And Kanak was making that point of connecting it with real life bullying. And that's the point I would like to make before I hand it over to other panelists. That it's essential, I feel, to talk in the larger space. There are IT solutions out there, and we are talking about having separate cells within the police where you can go and report, which is extremely essential. But at the same time, we also need to talk about why some people take bully. Either in the people who are bullying online would also be looking for opportunities, avenues to bully offline, their classmates, their neighbors, younger kids, like molest a child. So it's part of the same psychological syndrome. So at some point, we also need to connect the larger dots and connect with, like pick the brains of the educators out here. But how do we reach out to young children, and how do we talk to them about why people bully and why not to bully? It's one thing to sort of provide the safeguards to women or individuals who have been facing the bullying. And I do work in gender-based violence, and I focus on providing a response to individuals after they have faced the violence. But it's also important to focus on how people would not perpetrate the violence. And we need to join the larger dots. So maybe I can come back later, but I would end here for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Raki. There is a conscious decision for not having the women voices over there. And we can talk about it in the next round of conversation that we have. And yes, we do need to come back to this, join the dots and say, really, what is the action that we need to take? How is it that we create this mesh which actually can prevent such bullying online or offline? As we move forward. That is the intention of, this is the conversation starter. This is the trigger point over here. So thanks so much, Raki, for bringing that. Artika and then Sumiran.
Hello, everyone. And first of all, congratulations on this brilliant film. I think one of the most impactful things in this 2-minute film was the journey of the woman that she went through to feeling shame, to feeling that anger, and to feeling that, this is not my fault, and then coming to the courage and saying out loud that, report it. I think that journey in those 2 minutes is something that, for me stood out the most. It's so powerful to show that kind of a change in expressions, in also in the tone of the movie, and also showing, this is what we do as women. We feel the shame, we feel the anger, and then we find the courage to say something out loud and do something about it. So, I think that journey was the most powerful thing for me in this movie. This is something that, we kind of use in organizing as well in our work, the anger, hope, and action approach, where we ignite the anger about, why you're not being treated well. And then you talk about hope, what would the hope look like? And then you think collectively about actions, what actions you can take in order to make your workplace a little safer, or, your environment or atmosphere or your community a little bit safer. So I think we are in that approach where, you ignited the anger in us by showing that film. And I think we'll talk about the hope that we can find in that, and also collectively look at what kind of actions that we can take practically.
Why have you stolen my entire structure of the panel discussion? Thank you, Artika. Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you. And exactly the next rounds are going to be that. So everybody now, what's coming up, okay? Sumiran. Thanks, Artika. Sumiran.
Hi, namaste. Good evening, everyone. I would just put a point forward on a personal side wherein I do feel I connect to the film so much because I'm just connecting a few points that I heard from other panelists also. Freedom of expression, and people who know me personally, professionally, know the kind of work that I do and kind of free-spirited person that I am. Someone like me now at the current time thinks 10 times to put myself on social media. So, I am stopping. I have a private account and I filter people. I don't add random people. I don't go on followers. A part of my work has to, I cannot be off social media because a lot of my work is related to social media. Like we have to be there. But there is a layer and there is a sort of like, a mask that even someone like me has to put it, and not just from general public or people who are trying to do it. It's also from my relatives, my some personal friends, and wherein you do feel like that if you have, I as an artist want to put myself out there, have a genuine authentic expression that I want to share with the community, with the people. I think sometimes 10 times there have been times wherein I've put some work of mine, which, have people have been offended by it and have reached out to me, family members, close friends and things like that. Things get political or religious and all of that, and then my ethics, my principles, my values are questioned. And for me as an artist, I do feel a dilemma that, I can't afford to be totally off this. And a very recent example, I posted a comment on a trans artist recently, an actor in Bombay, and I wrote down that, oh my God, you're so beautiful. You look like Smita Patil. She actually reminds husky, beautiful, gorgeous woman. And then my comment was, there were like trolls from zero account, like 0 followers, fake accounts that she's a man, and this is a hidden man, and like on a little comment. So post, and then my post was was being, so I think it's a very strong dilemma to be or not to be. And just since I'm also working in education sector currently, and I work at a base level of school with schools, whatever is the age limit whenever we register at any of, I think when you are registering, there should be a kind of like a filter wherein before making the account, the people are trained onto what are the methods of reporting before even you do your email and you do your OTPs and all of that. That okay, tomorrow if you are trolled for something, I haven't gone through something like that, that it's so easy to make fake accounts. Why? Like, why is it that there has to be an authentic? Why can't you putting Aadhaar cards on every damn thing? Why can't you put authentic government IDs on accounts, on these accounts? So, and they should be reported. And when a particular age group or a teenager is enrolling, the enrollment should have this category that, okay, first, before you make your account, these are the numbers, these are the emails, this is the criteria of, if you feel you are being harassed, if you feel you're being attacked, that should be a core, like a core step towards completing, so that we are already making a safe place for the young adults or for people to come and express. We feel protected, and then it is our conscious decision to come back. So I would just wrap it up here. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Sumiran. Really relevant, because that's exactly where we were going to. Because what is it that we can actually do to systemically raise the awareness among the students and the youth to be able to tackle this problem? So you come up with one of the very relevant and I think practical suggestions as to what is possible to be done. And maybe people like you and Kanak and everybody else who's engaged with the youth at a school level can actually take this up as a small little module and carry this forward. I just want to hear from Priya very quickly, though Priya is the maker of this film, Three People Productions. I must have seen this film like a million times. But what is it like to hear what everybody else is saying about the film, Priya, after having made it?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for all your comments. Very, very grateful to have the opportunity to make this film for Sakshi. And along with that, we're also very grateful to be part of this. It was as we are a women led organization. I mean, we are 3 partners at 3 people. It was very interesting to get the storyline from Sakshi and try and visualize what they would want and how we would portray this film in such a way that it could have an impact within the limited time frame we had to make it. We are very grateful to the donations we got from Girish of Tunai. We are grateful to Geet Theater who worked with us, and we really were able to bring this together mostly because as a company, we also like to make films and give voice to voiceless people. So we had been working in the space doing that. But when it comes to this particular film, we were a little bit anxious and a little bit nervous because we hadn't done something that is so important, because I think it's very, very important to start with the right message. And like Artika was saying, we have to create the right anger and the right kind of emotion in people so they are motivated and they are almost pushed to react, after which we try and control that reaction to bring about the change that we want. So once again, thank you very much for your valuable feedback, and we hope to actually make more of these. But ideally, we get to a point where we don't need to say this all the time and it's already understood by everyone, and we can move on.
Absolutely.
Thank
Very
you.
well said. Thank you. Thank you, Priya. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. This is really brilliant. And yes, I would invite the participants who are there in the room, if they have any questions for the panelists, to drop it in the chat, and we will take them up as and when they come. But just moving on and going forward, I would say that each one of you present in this room has earned this spot, right? Because of who you are and the absolute circle of influence that each one of you has in the work that you're doing. So you are all people who have been handpicked because of the reach that you have in enabling and participating and collectively joining hands to create an environment where it's possible for everybody to thrive free of any kind of harassment, any kind of bullying, sexual harassment, whether online or offline, but online more, because there's been a study with McPhee, and it said that 45% of the participating children in India said that they cyber bullied a stranger, as opposed to 17% globally. So it's something like which is really rampant in India, and I think we can use with any and all influences that we can bring to the table. So I'm going to move into what Artika is very nicely articulated into the hope, but I'm going to club the action round over here. So in this round, when we go around, you can all raise hands, talk to each other, build on each other's what they're saying. Sumiran has very kindly started the whole action thing by saying that one of the things that we need to do is to actually educate the young ones before they create an account on what to do if they're confronted with something like this, and what not to do to others, equally important. So in this particular round, I would invite you to be allies. And what are allies? Allies are people who are in a position of power, who have resources, and they're committed to using their resources to create platforms for others on an ongoing basis, not a one-time action, not aaj kar liya kal sote hain, ho gaya, but on an ongoing basis, committing to create platforms which is going to enable the ones who don't have these many resources to also access an environment or live in an environment, which is my right as a citizen of this country, right? So how do I enable an environment where it's possible for each one of us to exercise our right to equality as a citizen of this country? I'm going to invite this round to say, what is the hope and the action? And hope in the sense, like, what is it that you would like to happen? And what is the action that you would like to bring in your individual circle to take this action forward? One is a generic, India ko saaf karo, you know, let's clean India. That's like a big generic thing. It'll happen, not, but what is it that I can do in my individual circle? This is what I want to happen, and this is what I have been doing, I continue to do, and I will do, you know, that kind of a conversation. So I'm inviting each one of you, because I know each one of you is doing a lot in this area. So yes, Kanak, thank you for taking the lead.
So, Smitaji, I think it's as a hope, what I would want it to happen is that this has to be a conversation piece in every dinner table. This needs to be there. I think parents need to talk about it to their children. At our schools, during the PTMs, we encourage our teachers to talk to parents about it. Generally, we tell people as to, if something wrong happens, then what are you supposed to do as a corrective measure? Why not take the conversation to what is the right thing to do online? It was very distressing for me last year during one of the online interactions. I was interviewing Ehsan Nurani, the musician. He works with us for music program. And a lot of students started trolling him. And a lot of students then started, and Ehsan just asked a question that, okay, so everyone who's trolling me, who is it that you guys aspire to be? And there is this online celebrity troll, carry something, and to be like that person. And I looked up this guy. He's a troll. And that's why he's a bully who bullies everyone. And kids want to be like him because the anonymity of internet gives them that power to be that bully. Essentially, we need to remove that. That conversation needs to happen at the dinner tables. It needs to happen in our schools. It needs to happen through workshops. It needs to happen as a practical thing and not just as a theoretical thing that if cyberbullying happens to you, you can go to the cybercrime department and raise a complaint. The ship has sailed already at that point because someone or the other has gone into depression, someone or the other has given up on something. I'll share a very personal experience and I'll pass on to someone else. My daughter used to make, she's just 13 now. She used to make these YouTube shorts and, funny little satirical pieces. And in one of them, she dressed up as Arvind Kejriwal. And she was trolled when she was 10 years old on YouTube that, you had to become a man to gain popularity. And what we were like, okay, this is a 10-year-old who's being trolled for dressing up as the Delhi chief minister. Like, where are we going? The downside of it all is that it's been 3 years, Smitaji, she's not made a YouTube short. She's stopped making those satirical videos now. That's where we are going. So we need to have these conversations. We need to bring them into our bedrooms, into our schools, through workshops, through conversations.
Thank you, Kanak. Very, very powerful sharing that you've done over here. Yes, let this be a dinner table conversation in every house. And let this be a conversation that's powered by educationists like you who push it home. It requires a little bit of pushing home. So maybe that could be your affirmative action that you do. Yes. Yes, Aisha. Yes, please, Aisha.
I am going to draw on what Kanak said, and he put it in like very precisely, as in there need to be dinner table conversations around this, and children need to be taught from very early on how to deal with these situations. But I think a more important thing that we probably need to consider or look at is change the way how we teach children to look at differences. It could be any kind of differences, socioeconomic, political, religious, it's differences that are based on gender identities. And when we start otherizing people, we also start alienating, and that is how minorities are created socially, because you otherize someone so much, you alienate them so much that they just don't seem human to you anymore. Like, would you probably imagine doing that to any of your friends or your family members? You wouldn't. But if it's a stranger online, you would, because you don't consider them human. So the kind of dehumanization that happens when we start otherizing people based on whatever differences there are, I think that is where the change needs to start. And it starts in schools. It has to start, in families. And I think that is one of the most basic steps that we as, a society need to be taking. So
thanks,
yeah,
Aisha. So I would say, I would invite you to go a step further and say the work that you're doing at jhatka.org, maybe this is a push and a conversation that you need to push out, because this is what you can do in your personal space or your professional space, is to push out this conversation, because we all need to start talking about it. It's very easy to say children need to learn, because, and I am a big what should I, recalcitrant to that, because I don't think children need to be burdened with anything. I think we adults need to take the full responsibility. So yes, the children need to understand this, but this needs to start with the adults. The adults need to start taking responsibility for doing that. Yes, I'll go to Priya, and then I'll come to Rakhi, and then to Taran. And when I come to you, Taran, I'll invite you to also add your poem to it as well, please. Yes. And I'm going to say we have, in the interest of time, we have 12 minutes to go. So I'm going to invite us all to be sharp and quick about this.
Great. Just to follow up on Aisha's point, I think it's very important to understand the differences. I find that children today are really confused, and the line between online, that they don't understand many things that they do have impact far beyond a simple comment that they make. And I agree with you. It's not only on the children. I think the parents as adults need to take control and onus and responsibility and ownership for this. So I would just say that from our side, we can totally educate the child better on how to interact with others and try to make them more sensitive to other people. Having said that, as we just, as a company, we always try to hold the space for anyone who wants to tell a story and reach out to people with around them through films. So hopefully we are able to help more with that. Thank you.
Thanks. And I really look forward to more and more films coming up, which are going to wake up the adult community around us, and is actually going to make it possible for people to wake up and have conversations and actually move from anger, hope, action. Rakhi, thank you, Priya.
Yeah. Thank you. So I would like to continue from what Smita pointed out, that it's we who need to change. It's we ask the adults, because if we change, it will percolate down, it will trickle down. There's so much of intolerance all around us, and it just seems to be growing. So one of the things that I could do in my capacity as sort of working with a very large organization with whose HR is extremely committed to sort of, making the workspace more inclusive and safer, knowing that it's a process and it's never, you don't ever arrive, but it's about the process. So the one thing is that I would definitely, I promise on this forum that I would reach out to my excellent HR colleagues, and I would try to first get to know that if we do have any components which address these issues as part of our organizational policy, because it is about mental health. And if you're committed to the mental health of employees, it doesn't matter if they're getting trolled or they are ending up trolling other people in their personal spaces. It sort of just seeps all over the place. So, and if we do not have, then we could try to organize, like sessions where we talk to colleagues, education material out there. So there could be organizational pathways which we could adopt to address this issue, bring it to the forefront, make it very prominent that it's not about your personal Facebook or Twitter account or Instagram handle that we're talking about. It's about you, the person, and your mental health. You could be a bullied person or a bully. Either ways, it's not a great space to be in. So these are the things you need to be aware of, and we are here to help. So that's what we all could consider doing. Make it as an organizational thing. Over.
Thank you, Rakhi. And Swapna says, well said, Rakhi, with you in this journey, you have my commitment as the partner. So there you go.
I'll just add that Swapna is the excellent, wonderful HR head at CARE. And I'm so glad she took time out on Saturday evening, because she is like so committed to this issue. She said, I'll be there. I'll be there also. Thank you. Thank you, Swapna.
Thank you. I'm going to still invite you further, Rakhi, to take it into your programmatic actions as well, because you have access to a huge amount of community across India. So take it across as a component of your programmatic action as well. So yes, I'll go to Taran, and then I'll come to Pavleen and go to Arpita. Yes, Taran.
I just want to add to whatever everyone's saying. Like being a parent, I always felt I had huge responsibility to protect my children and give them the right values and the right education. So I was always concerned about sharing any kind of information or pictures of my children when they were younger, to the extent that I was trolled, because being an actress, I was trolled that, oh, you want to hide that you have kids, you know. I said, no, I want to take their consent before sharing anything, because when I'm sharing a picture of a young child, are they even in a position to give consent that, okay, they are okay with you? So I was always concerned about this. And apart from that, I think the responsibility what we can take as parents is like at least till a certain age. In my case, I would say till the age of 16, it's not important for your child to have a social media account. And if I've done it in this time, anybody can do it. Like, you don't need a 10-year-old to be on Instagram. Secondly, I find a lot of young parents giving phone to their kids just because they are busy doing other things. And if, you know, we keep interacting with our kids, do more outdoor activities with them when they are younger, then you don't need to hand over a phone to a young child. I think only the dangers of all these cyber crimes start when we are exposing the child at a very young age to, they know that there are all these things. And gradually when they reach a certain age, then having these conversations, like when they were young, like we didn't have Instagram. So just the way we would have a conversation with the child about good touch, bad touch, please come tell me if someone's touched you, and you
safe touch, unsafe touch, not good touch, but
yes. So just like we would have those conversations, I think it's the same conversations we need to have with them now about the, you know, the good and the bad side of social media. And I mean, I can just go on and on as a parent, but I'm sure we have other speakers to talk about it, and I think I'll share it through my poetry.
Do you want to give us your poem?
Now you want?
Sure.
Do you want to choose? There's one that says girls don't make a noise, and there's one for which I was trolled the most called sex education. Which one would you like?
Sex education.
Sex education.
Okay. So sex education is a simple poem where I'm just talking about a normal conversation that I had with my son, how I believe in educating my kids and being very open with them about everything. But yes, we were both trolled for it. What is the most prohibited word in our society? We assume people do it, but we must never talk about it, because good girls don't talk about it. So while we spent millions on the big fat Indian weddings, the day a woman conceives a child, we say, "Sab upar wale ki kripa hai," as if the man and the women never did it. Because of course, people from good families don't do it. And even if they do, they must never talk about it, least of all in front of their parents. So where do the children in an Indian household learn about sex? Of course, these days, everyone has a phone, so they have access to websites. But in older days, they would hire a VCR and then have that awkward conversation with the cassette rental guy. People who have been brought up in those times know what I'm talking about. Have that conversation with the cassette rental guy. And still, every time when you came home with that cassette, they would find nothing that could give them any information. Fast forward to the present times. I told myself that since I was never given any sex education by my parents, I would be a very conscious parent. And I must say, I was overeager to share the information with my kids before they could use any wrong means to get one. So while they were kids, I would talk to them about safe touch and unsafe touch. As they became teens, and the first time my son came home with his girlfriend and shut the door of his room, I knocked at the door and told him, please use protection. He was all of 15. Now he looks back and laughs, Mom, we hardly even held hands. What were you even thinking? But I thought, you never know. They are millennials. The second time I spoke to my son about consent, we had a long chat. where I told him he must not do anything to a girl that he may not want or like. Let her tell you what she wants, and never persuade a girl, even emotionally, in making her believe that she wants this. And last of all, never force yourself on anyone. Now, I was super proud of myself, as I thought we must have this conversation with our kids, especially with our boys. After a few days, my son comes back to me and asks, Mom, you spoke to me about consent that day and said that I must not do anything that a girl doesn't like. But what if she asks me to do something that I don't like? And I was like, please say no. Tell her you don't like it. And if she still insists, then just walk out of the relationship. But he said, but you didn't say that I could also say no. So I sat there holding my head, that thinking consent is mutual. It's not just for a man to take a woman's consent, but it's true for any gender. I realized how the feminist in me was ignoring the fact that how vital it is to have this talk with every gender, to talk to our kids about sex, to be the first ones to give them sex education so that they grow up to be happier and more responsible adults. Thank you.
Wow, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you. And such an important conversation. And like Swapna said over here, very important point. We have to take consent into consideration both ways. So excellent. Thank you, Taran.
Thank you.
I'm going to move on to Pavleen. And then, yes.
Yes,
We're
thank you,
overcrossing by
Smitaji.
5 minutes, but that's fine. It's great.
Thank you, Smitaji. I just wanted to tell Taranji that is so impressive. I was thinking about my own motherhood, since I'm also a mother, and my 8-year-old, when she's 15, is that the right time to tell her about be safe and have protected sex? But yeah, you could never be too careful as a mother. You've seen all of it, so you rather have your children prepared. So thank you for that. I think that's some good parenting lessons I've learned. I actually wanted to take on what Isha also said, that, we should, as parents, also teach our kids to respect differences, especially in a country like ours, where diversity is so vast, where every second person belongs to a different religion, a different region, a different caste. Especially in our country, we really need to teach our kids that it's okay to be different. I believe that the new schools that are coming up, of course, are teaching the kids that a bully is not really a bad person, it's just a bad day. And it's just maybe a string of bad days, which has maybe landed that person there to probably make him or her do whatever they are doing to the other person. But I feel like we need to go to the grassroots level of maybe not just schools, like government schools, but also corporates, because it's not just the children, but also the adults, like Rakhi very rightly said. And we as artists, I believe there are a lot of artists here, renowned artists here. We have so much power because we have the screen in front of us, and we have the power to put whatever we can and affect people's lives and make a change and make them think. And of course, आप किसी को बोलते हुए सुनते हो वो इतना effective नहीं होता, जब आप देखते हो वो ज़्यादा याद रहता है. So I feel like we as artists have the power to bring about a change. The change in the government always comes from art. It stems from the art sector. So I also did films, so I did this film called Greater Than Fear, which was by IIM Jobs, which was about sexual exploitation in the office space, where it's not just about somebody, it could be like an inappropriate touch which you're not okay with, but if something you're not okay with, you're not okay with. You can't have a fight with yourself that, oh, why you're not okay with it. It's just the way you are. So I think acceptance of what you like and don't like is the biggest point here, because people are different, and intolerance works hand in hand. So I feel like, yes, as artists, I feel like we should make more content that brings about that change in every age. That's it.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant, Pavleen, and that is the least that one would expect from you and from Taran. Both of you are out there. You're putting your thoughts out there in as many words. And I would really look forward to the content that you are continuing to put. It's not as if you're not doing it already, but continuing to do it. And yes, Artika, we have to hear from you and Sumiran. And I'm sure all of us can give a little bit more time over here, even though we're running over time. But this is an interesting conversation, an important conversation, and we must hear from everybody. So I end with Taran and Pavleen to say that I look forward to the continued content that's going to come over here and inspire everybody, make everybody angry, and make everybody think and make everybody take action. So thanks. Thank you so much. Yes, Artika.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your contributions. I think the sex education poem is really hard-hitting. Thank you, Taranjeet, for that. And just linking a little bit of the stuff that we're talking about with social media, I mean, I can't help but wonder that are we lacking safe spaces in our everyday life so much that we feel it's okay for us to go online and share our thoughts and fears and whatever stories online, where we don't know whether those are safe spaces or not, and expose ourselves to judgment and criticism from anybody and everybody. So I think that's where in my understanding, that's where we need to start, where we think about how to create those safe spaces to talk and discuss about the stuff that we are thinking about, whether they are valid or not. Because I go through that personally quite a lot, where the isolation that I feel from my work and also in my social life, I feel like I do not have those safe spaces where I can validate the things that I'm thinking, whether am I thinking or the stories that I have, are they sound? Are they making sense? Do they even have any foundation to it? Or it's just me going over and over in my head, questioning myself. So sometimes I do put something on social media and I do get comments that are not friendly, but why do I feel that it is safe for me to throw something out there into the universe where I don't know anybody, but not have those safe spaces around me? So I think for me in my work, one thing that I would really look forward to doing is start having solidarity circles where women come together and actually just talk about the work that they're doing or the issues that they're facing, whether it be at home or at their work, because we don't see a lot of women in unions, in trade unions, because they are so impounded by the responsibilities of their work and their household that it cannot find time to even fight for their fundamental rights at their workplaces. So I think solidarity circles, in my opinion, might be a safe space for women in workplaces to come and talk about what's going on at their home that stopped them to be effective or productive at their workplaces. And also, patriarchy impacts you at every level of your growing up stages, right? Even if you're a kid or you're a teenager, me in my 30s, I'm questioning everything about myself because of, the waves that patriarchy comes with. So, those safe spaces would be, for me, a good start.
Brilliant. Thanks, Artika. Actually, really, if each one of us can, that we can create the space where people can speak up or talk, not only on the internet, not only online, but also in the offline space, because this is all now like a mixed media world that we live in. We live offline, online. Virtual reality and real reality really has very little distinction left now. Look at us, we are all connected online right now in a very real conversation. So yes, definitely. And also about looking at how is it that we can actually advocate for guidelines that actually, make the platforms a safe space. So not only teaching the children, but also looking at the guidelines that we can put into place for, and also push the platforms for some come together, create the influence enough for making the platform start looking at something like this. And I want to go to Sumiran. Sumiran, last final thoughts from you.
Hi. I would like to thank everyone on this panel for the great thoughts. And I think this is an example of the conversation that we're having today, that we need to be there for each other as an artist community. Connecting to the solidarity group that we're talking about. As an artist, what I am doing, I'll continue to do that. I would keep producing questionable, crazy work that I'm doing, would not stop, because again, I can't stop because of the bullies, but that's a complete circle again. When we look at other artists creating unconventional work and coming out and speaking up, you get a kind of like a support system that we are aiming at here with, the conversation Artika has also spoken about, and other panelists, that if we could have such, when you have these fiction book clubs and this club and that club, we could have similar clubs online or offline wherein we can actually talk about it. So in the artist sector, I think I would continue to create the unconventional work, because there are days I want to quit social media, but there is this one little message you've got from an unknown person who's thrown up you a message saying, thank you for being who you are. Because of you, I did not kill myself. And these are the little, if you can affect one person, one life, and this one message, compared to all the bullying and trolling that I've been through. So I think as artists, we connect that it touches us so much that we are like, it's okay. We'll work about it. We are working on the whole trolls and everything. But what about that one person who cannot be, in a physical space and has reached out to you for being yourself, for being what you're putting out there, and you are being trolled for it. So I think we should not stop our unconventional work, like Taranjeet's poem and her conversations, and for being such a strong woman and a parent. And I mean, she's inspiring so many other young parents, to relate and to be out there. So I think we should continue to be more visible, which also someone had initially said that what is the context of the poem? Is it the anger and then we are bringing the solution, or we're just trying to snub it at just the ignition? Thank you.
Thanks, Sumiran. Thank you. You brought in such an important part that we're talking about. Actually, yes, anger is important. Yes, hope is important, and call to action is important. And we cannot ignore the healing that is required for the impact that it has had, and it continues to have on so many of us who are pushed into the corners of silent corners, and really have no voice at all, or no circle of solidarity, Artika, that you're talking about. And I think we must, in our thinking as we go from here, we must not forget the healing part of it that is really critical to bring into this whole jigsaw puzzle that we're trying to put together. And I can see, Taran, your hand is up. You want to say something, and as is Pavleen's hand, you also want to say something, yes? So okay, no, all right. So Taran, I'll have you, yes.
Okay, who is going? Pavleen's talking first? Or?
No, you, Taran, you.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to add to what Sumiran said. I think, yes, as an artist, I do feel my responsibility to talk about subjects that are a taboo in the society, to talk about subjects that we are forbidden. I've only produced one short film, and the production house is called Forbidden Films, because we want to raise subjects that are forbidden. We are forbidden to talk about in society. And that's a similar kind of work even I'm doing with Smita. We're doing a theater show where we talk about abuse and raise questions about subjects that we are actually forbidden to talk about. But also what Sumiran's saying is really important, that I also question myself, because I have come from a space where we did not have social media, and moving to a space where as an actor, there's a constant pressure to be visible. And half of the times you're going to bed thinking, why do I have to do this? And, end of the day, we are also humans. We have families, we have children. So we get affected by the trolls. And on days like about just 10 days ago, when I was really feeling low in life because of all the trolling happening, for a simple thing, I said that I feel I'm beautiful in my own eyes. But even for that, I was trolled. And my sister did a beautiful thing. She took screenshots of all my stuff on YouTube and sent me hundreds of screenshots of, and she says, just see how many lives you have impacted. And most of them are women, but there are also a lot of men, I would say. And she says, just see what is kind of impact your work is having every time you're talking about abuse, about sex, about raising your voice. And then you feel you understand the reason why you're going back to social media, why you're doing it, because it has, in today's time, it has a much wider reach and you can reach millions of people in just a few days of time. And so, yes, we have to make the best use of the responsibility we have, but keeping in mind how we can keep ourselves safe and not get affected by the
Absolutely. Oxygen mask we have to wear first ourselves. And that is why we're sitting over here and saying, hey, you know what? We are going to be allies. We are going to put ourselves out. We're going to make a difference. We're going to continue to do the work that we're doing so that we can continue to create platforms for voices that are not heard. And we are continuing to do actions which are going to actually educate, bring information and education to say, hey, you know what? This is not okay. This is not harmless. This is not just something we have just said for the heck of it online and it's going into a black hole. It is landing somewhere. It is reaching where you are pushing it. It's as good as doing a physical onslaught or physical violence. It's as bad as that. It's as harmful as that. If that kind of conversations start happening more and more, and we are not quiet about it, and we don't allow ourselves to go low, we bounce back thanks to your sister, we bounce back, come right back, own our space, and be bake off. We have own our space and we hold space for others. I want to, at this point, quickly invite a couple of questions if there are any from the audience. Is there anybody there in the audience who would like to ask the panelists directly something or would like to put it on the chat? Then the house is open for your comments, interactions, or questions to the panelists, and you can ask this of any of them. I know I have one question pending for me, and I will certainly give the answer for that. But anybody else in the meantime? All right, so I have most of what the audience is saying and thinking in the chat over here, and there doesn't seem to be any questions coming back here. So with that, I
did have a question. Is it okay for me to speak?
Yes,
My name is Geet Theater. I live in Singapore. Over the last few years, I've faced tremendous amount of cyberbullying as a strong, outspoken woman. And I thank my friend Rashmi for inviting me for this lovely conversation. I think what is lacking today in society is the upstanders part. Because that circle of solidarity, we might talk about it till the cows come home. It only stays in panel discussions. And on screen. I mean, the place I live in, there are strong women, but I've seen you need to, in fact, teach yourself to become so centered and so resilient that even when there is no help available, you are able to face it. So I think it's both sides. One is that we need more upstanders to come out and speak up when they recognize it's bullying. Second is you yourself need to be so resilient. You need to be ready with sentences of how you're going to address calmly. Techniques like meditation, etc. help, again, if these are taught at school. So it's an all-rounded approach because this is not going to go away. Google has also started a curriculum called Be Internet Awesome. You might want to check it out. I don't want to take more time, but this is just what I wanted to share. Thank you so much for driving these conversations.
Thank you, Ketki, and thank you for your sharing. I always reiterate that it takes a lot of courage for any one of us to speak up and speak out. And especially if it is not a safe environment. This is a safe environment where we're speaking out, but let's this is what we're talking about. A very important thing that you're talking about in this panel, each one of us sitting in the audience over here has access that strength within ourselves, and it takes a lot to reach that strength. It takes a lot to build that strength amongst ourselves. So yes, while we all need to be active bystanders, actors, allies, and stand up, we also have to look at how is it that we can contribute to the healing for ourselves and healing for others, and build upon the spirit of resilience as well. With that, I want to request Michelle to screen the film once more. And as before the film screens, I want to thank each one of you in the audience, and I want to thank each one of you here in the panel. I want to thank everybody on the Facebook who would have joined in, and anybody else who's going to see this conversation later. I hope each one of you, each one of us, is going to take this back, not only in our individual spaces, but in our interpersonal spaces, and actually try and impact structural spaces, make changes where it matters. Be bake off. Can we all just say that once? Be bake off.
Be bake off.
Be bake off. Be bake off.
Be bake off.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bake off.
Thank you.
टुगेदर गैंग रेप।
फैशन के नाम पर बस अब नंगा ही घूमना बाकी रह गया है, वो भी कर लो। हेल्प चाहिए तो मेरा नंबर दूं?
अरे तुझे दिखाना है तो पूरा दिखाना। ये टीजर क्या देके जा रही है?
शॉट लगाएंगे, ज्यादा बोलेगी तो तेरी पिक्चर एडिट करके वायरल कर दूंगा।
घर पे आने का कितना लेगी?
ए चल चुप रंडी, बड़ी गंदी सी है, घोड़े जैसा मुंह है उसका, कुछ भी नहीं है आगे तुम्हारे।
फेक साली, धरती पर बोझ हो, तुम जैसे लोग मर क्यों नहीं जाते? I want sisters of such comedians to be raped, so that they go in depression and stop cracking sick jokes.
पॉपुलर होना है ना तेरे को, मैं करता हूँ तुझे पॉपुलर।
छोटे कपड़े, ये भी
That feminist you have got on sounds nice.
कोई क्लास ही नहीं है।
I wonder what color sneakers she has got.
She has no headlights, no bumper, हाँ?
सर्विस अवेलेबल।
What's your rate?
इसको इंडिया में बैन ही कर दो।
ऐसे नाइट सूट
पूरे
में आ
इंडियन
गई।
कल्चर की वाट लगा के
पूरे मुंह पे बस रोटी दिख रही है।
Learn to dress like a woman.
वीडियो खुला हुआ है। गीत और फैबुलस का है। टॉक्स को लंगी है।
सब कपड़े बोल दो ना।
Sometimes it's fun.
जैसे
Go
कि
wild and break
अभी तक जिंदा है।
That feminist you have got on sounds nice. I wonder what color sneakers she has
वीडियो
got.
खुला हुआ है।
रिपोर्ट करो।
Thank you. A very good evening to all of you. Thank you for being here with this, I call the panel discussion the end. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.